but the message she gives is big and powerful and is spread all around the world. Someone told me recently, I was overseas, and they're an expert on these things. They said Barbara is the #1 health influencer on health in the world today. And it's a far cry from 5 years ago when the Healthcare Complaints Commission deemed her a threat to public health. Yeah. But you know what I told her recently? A reporter was carrying on from The Guardian, and I said to her, you don't get it, do you? You people just don't get it. The people have spoken. The people want the truth about health, and you are quite irrelevant. So, people power. Barbara and I have been on a journey together for 27 years, and we both had our eyes fixed. We're both very, very big about the truth. We believe that whatever comes our way, we want to follow the truth, whether that's in raising our children, that's in health, spirituality, anything. We just want to know what the truth is, and then let's go for the truth, okay? Because the truth will never let you down. Everything else will fail ultimately and be exposed. And this has led to where Barbara is today. So I'm going to hang around out the front here a little bit today. So Barbara, would you like to tell us a little bit about where you're from and your background and how you got into health? Thank you.
Righto. I have to tell you, it's really nice to be able to speak in Australia. But before I go on, remember this is not health advice, I'm just here to entertain you. But I think that people are now interested in the truth on health. And a lot of it, I think, came from what happened in 2020. In fact, I think by 2021, 2022, people are starting to say, something's not right. This doesn't make any sense. And you don't have to have letters behind your name. In fact, the truth is you're probably better not to. Because the more letters you have, the more they can take you down. And also, when you don't have letters behind your name, it means that you've investigated for yourself. And you've tried things for yourself. And the old saying, the proof's in the pudding. Isn't that true? And the fact is that drugs never cure disease. Can you ever say never? You actually can with this. Because what drugs are, they're robots. And robots do this, they say, get out of my way. I got a job to do whether you need it or not. That's what drugs do. Now in a crisis, a drug may save a life. There's no doubt about that. But we're talking about day-to-day things. And what I've heard here today so far is I've heard a lot of words on truth. I've heard a lot of words that are based in God's government, which is a government of freedom. And freedom is based on free choice. Whenever our free choice is taken away from us, it's time to be concerned and it's time to stand up. So when I'm in Germany in 2022, a man came up in his German way and he said, your husband's wrong. I said, oh? He said, he should not be in politics. It's because he's in politics that you've been taken down. And I said, well, I'm very proud of my husband. Because evil prospers when good men do nothing. And what's just happened in America is proof that the people have power. The people have made a stand. So never think for a moment that you don't have a voice. Never for a moment don't think that you have power. The power of one is an incredible power. So when I was a little mother in the rainforest, up in the hills behind Coffs Harbour, raising my children, I was pregnant or breastfeeding non-stop for 14 years. I breastfed 3 months into every pregnancy, and I never took them to the doctor, and they're all still alive. Got that? You know what I used to think? What do they do in the little villages in Africa? What do they do in the little villages in the islands? What have people been doing for thousands of years? They've just been, and that mother, especially the breastfeeding mother, do you know hormones are released in her brain that increase her mothering skills? And the best sign that a baby's getting enough milk is lots of wet nappies, a happy baby. Size is not really important because you get little people and you get big people. But as long as there's some growth. But I was just talking to a mother, she's a relative of mine, my son's wife. She said, well, the doctor said the baby's not putting on enough weight, so I have to top up. And I said, well, I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you what I'd do. I wouldn't go back. As long as there are wet nappies. And a lot of people do things out of fear. But the Bible says in 2 Timothy 1 verse 7, God says, I have not given you the spirit of fear. In fact, the worst decisions are made on fear. God said, I've not given you the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. What's power? Isn't knowledge power? And that's why I wrote these books. Because I wrote these books to put into the hands of the people knowledge. And how do I know it works? Well, my children are all still alive. There we go. And Michael and I have been married 27 years, so we've been doing this for 26 years. Except for the last 4 years in Australia, I've had to do it elsewhere. Because apparently I'm a threat to public safety. So when I was up in the rainforest raising my children in the simple, natural ways, and do you know what I found? It worked. It worked. I tried simple little things. They got an earache, I'd cook up an onion on the stove, and guess what? They fell asleep, and when they woke up, they were happy. What does that tell you? That tells you that it works. You see, there's only one thing that has the ability to heal us, and that is the human body. When it's given the right conditions. That is true. And I'd like to suggest that today, the main medical medium used today is based on fear. It's based on fear because it's based on the wrong foundation. It's based on a foundation that's actually presented as truth, but it's not truth at all. It's just a theory. It's called evolution. And Charles Darwin, who basically made this theory famous, he said, my theory hinges on what they discover on the inside workings of the cell. Well, guess what? We know the inside workings of the cell now. There's a literal city in there. There are outboard motors, there are conveyor belts. It's absolutely phenomenal, the inside workings of the cell. So do you know what that means? That theory that that's teaching our children is truth is actually, it doesn't make any sense, and it's been disproven in his own words. And so this foundation that we evolved, it means we cannot heal, and because we cannot heal, we have to take drugs. And so $1 billion industry was raised up. And that industry is based on deception. What's deception? Not as it seems. What we were told near the end of 2021, this vaccine will save the world. Is that what we were told? Well, the only reason we don't have news on current COVID testing and the amount of people with it today is because they've stopped testing, is that right? And isn't that what Donald Trump said? If you want to lower the numbers, stop testing the people. And do you remember in 2021, it was on the news, people were lining up for 8 hours in the traffic to get a test. Well, they just couldn't keep up the testing equipment, so they made a new rule. You could only get tested if you had symptoms. Well, that cut out 80% of the people wanting a test. Now, you know what this shows you? The hold that medicine has on people, and its main way of holding the people is the media. Have you noticed? And in 2021, if people contacted me and said, what can I do to protect myself against COVID, I'd say, stop watching the news. In fact, when I see what they've written about me, I can't believe anything I read. I can't believe anything I hear or see, because it is so wrong. Have you noticed? Have you noticed? Do you know what God gave us? He gave us a brain. And when God said, I've not given you the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind, you know what a sound mind does? It weighs up the pros and the cons. And maybe this is one of the reasons that I was very attracted to Michael, because he's very analytical. And apparently I was chosen on the list. Yeah. In fact, every day when I wake up, Michael's there writing his list for the day. Everything's on the list. And that was Michael's theory. If it works out on paper, it works out on business. So why not wife? So when he came into my house one day and said, I've been thinking about things and I think you and I should get married. I said, this is very analytical. He said, I'm a very analytical person. I said, well, I think when two people marry, they should love each other, and I could see that he didn't seem to have put that into the equation. He rubbed his chin and he said, well, I'm very attracted to you and I love your character. And when he said that to me, I thought, well, I'm very attracted to this man and I love his character, so I said, yes, I will. That was 27 years ago, so his formula worked. And you've probably noticed that even in the area of love, the movies have got it wrong, because the movie stars are on their third and fourth and fifth partners, isn't that right? No, but there are some basic principles. And that's what God gave us when he said, I have not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, sound mind. A sound mind weighs up the pros and cons. So if ever you go to a health professional and they say to you, you've got this. Has anyone here in this room been given titles? Let me give you some illustration of some titles. Autoimmune diseases. I don't believe in autoimmune diseases. I don't believe in them because the body wasn't designed to eat itself. Got that? Maybe you've given fibromyalgia. Have you ever looked up fibromyalgia on the internet? No known cause, no known cure. Got that? A label. If ever you've been given a label, my suggestion is you say, thank you so much for your opinion, because that's all it is. Got that? An opinion. Thank you so much for your opinion. I'm going to seriously consider this, and smile and leave the room as quickly as you can. Especially if a child is involved. Thank you so much for your opinion. Smile, see the big smile? I'm going to seriously consider this, and you leave quickly, because it's your God-given right as parents to make the decision on what you do with your children. And if you're told you have to vaccinate your child or your child will die from a disease, you can say, thank you so much for your advice, I'm going to seriously consider this. And go home, go to the pharmacist and get a printout of what is in that vaccine. You will not want to put that in your child. And if you don't understand what the names are, go to Google and you'll soon find out. Oh, there's aluminium. There's formaldehyde. Do you want that in your baby? And if you're still unsure, the person that's going to put the jab in, you say, could you please sign this piece of paper that you will be accountable if there's any reactions? If every single parent did that, no wonder I'm a threat to public safety. Yeah, because if every single parent did that, I don't think we'd be seeing vaccines. Because it's our God-given right to choose what we do and what we do not do to our body, what we put into our body and what we decide not to put into our body. It's our God-given right. Don't let anyone take that away from you. For too long, this medical profession has been placed in awe. Isn't that true? And you've been given only one title, and it's found in 1 John chapter 3, verse 1. It says, "Behold, what manner of love the Father has given unto us, that we should be called the sons, the daughters of God." That's our only title. And if someone's given you another title, whether it's schizophrenia, whether it's depression, whether it's panic attacks, whether it's diabetes, whether it's heart disease, remember what you say. Thank you so much for your opinion. I'm going to seriously consider this. You don't have to take it on. Because what's happening today, you see, the mind and the body are intimately connected. Same blood goes through them all. Same lymphatic system goes through them all. The nervous system, it's all connected. That when a person's told that they've got something, often they get it. And did you hear in our last speak, and was it 80% of diseases today that we have, that children have, are non-communicable. You can't catch them. You can't catch them. In other words, something's been done to the body for this to develop. Louis Pasteur's theory that germs cause disease. Do you know what Florence Nightingale said when she read of that theory? She said, "This is the theory of a man of a very unstable mind." And anyone who believes it is equally unstable, because germs don't cause disease, they're the result. They're the result. The CDC figures state that 99% of people that get COVID recover. Did everyone get that? So why was the whole world closed down? I hope they don't get away with that again. I hope if they try that again, the people will say, nah, nah, nah. And in 2022, I was in New York in the little town of Buffalo, and they told me a wonderful story. There was a school with 100 teachers. They had to be vaccinated. Every teacher said no. So Friday came, when they were handing in their resignation, the school board had an emergency meeting. We've decided to make an exemption. Because that school would have shut down. And you know what happens? Is you've got so many parents on 2 jobs, who's going to mind the children? Loved that story. You know, maybe half of them were undecided, but when you have 1 or 2 or 3 stand up and say, nah, not me. Rudyard Kipling, he wrote a poem. He said, "All we have of freedom, all we use and know, this our fathers bought for us long and long ago. Long forgotten bondage, dwarfing hearts and minds, this our fathers died to loose, shall be bound again. But not under my watch, not under Michael's watch, not under your watch, not be bound again." And it's in the little things. And anyone who has ever lived in a communist country, they said to me in 2021, they said, this is how it starts. You see, I'm 71. I've only ever known freedom. My children, in their 30s, some in their 40s, they've only ever known freedom. My grandchildren, and we've got 25 of them now, and they're not vaccinated. And we didn't tell our kids what to do. We gave them information. Because that's what power is knowledge. It's knowledge. That's why anything that goes into your body, you need to know, what is that? What is it? What's it made of? What effect is it going to have on my body? Because it's my God-given right to choose what I do with my body. So me, my children, my grandchildren, and yes, we have 3 great-grandchildren, they have only ever known freedom. And because we've only ever known freedom, I think that's why it was so easy to lock the world down. Because we're in a generation now that doesn't know the signs. And you know where it first starts? With taking away the right to do what we do to our bodies. And I get 10 years. It's crazy, isn't it? And so if someone says to me, Barbara, what can I do for this? And I say, well, let's have a look. Sore lower back. And of course, this is not health advice, I'm just telling you some anatomy and physiology here. What can I do for a sore lower back? Well, have you noticed that the biggest bone in our body is our femur? Have you noticed that the biggest muscle mass in our body are our quads? Why did God do that? God did that because our lifting and our bending should be from here. And how many people bend from here? And have you seen a 2-year-old pick up a ball? This is how they pick up a ball. They go like this. Can you pick up a ball like that? If you can't, you can practice. It's often because your quads aren't strong enough. So you can actually get your quads strong enough by just almost up, almost down, almost up, almost down, almost up. Oh, when they start to hurt, give them a rest. Listen. Part of being our own doctors is listening. And I believe, because it's our God-given right to do what we do to our bodies, to say yay or nay to whatever goes in or what happens to our body, then it's our God-given right to be our own doctors. Don't let anyone take that authority away from you. But to be able to be your own doctor, it's important to listen. I'm just teaching my husband this one because his back has been a bit sore and he's not allowed to lift anything until it gets strong again. But it's the quads. It's all about the quads. So if I've got some heavy bags to get off the baggage claim, I look around for a strong young man. There's a couple of strong young men over there. If I saw them, I'd choose them. I'd say, excuse me, would you mind getting my bag? But if I don't see a strong young man, I engage my core, I bend my knees and get it off the baggage claim. You know, this is the only body we've got and we need to look after it. We need to look after it because we can't give it away and get another one. And so it's very important to know something about the house you live in. And isn't that, I like to suggest, one of the most neglected forms of education today, is the body, how it works. And that's what I like to base my entertainment on. Sorry, slip of the tongue there, and is anatomy and physiology. So what can you do for a sore back? Start to strengthen your quads. Strengthen your quads, and muscles get strong by use. Keep this spine well lubricated by drinking adequate water. And sorry, no Coke, no, sorry. I said, what's that dark stuff in those jugs there? I thought this was the health party. Maybe the message didn't get through. But that's one of the biggest dehydrators, and caffeine, big dehydrators. And so your muscles aren't going to be very strong if you're drinking anything that is caffeinated. And if you are a coffee drinker, don't stop or you'll be suffering tonight. Ease off, little by little, or come to Misty Mountain Health Retreat and do a couple of days of detox. So those muscles, they need to be kept well lubricated. Your spine needs to be kept well lubricated. Did you know that 75% of your upper body weight is held in your lower back by water? And if you're not drinking enough water, yeah, you can have a bit of lower back pain. Also, The bones, did you know bones aren't made of calcium? They're made of 64 minerals and 12 main minerals. That's what bones are made of. So calcium supplements are useless. You know, the Bible tells us about this in Psalm 146 verse 3. It says, "Put not your trust in princes." Who are the princes? Aren't the princes the authorities in the field? The authorities in government, the authorities in medicine, the authorities in nutrition, the authorities even in herbalism. Put not your trust in princes, neither in the Son of Man, in whom there is no help. Their breath goes forth, they return unto their earth. In that very day their thoughts perish. In other words, they're just another human being. The next verse says, "Happy is he that hath the God of Jacob as his help, whose hope is in the Lord his God, who made heaven, earth, sea, and all that in them is," that's me, "and keeps truth forever." What a difference. What a difference. So if you're told, oh, you've got a slip disc, you'll have to have an operation, what do you say? Don't put your trust in princes. That's their opinion. Do you know sometimes their opinion is wrong? Did you know that? I'm sure there are people that have discovered that. Not quite right. One young Italian man, he did our program, he said, they told me I was going to have an operation, and I said, forget that, I'm going home to mum and dad. And their little Italian house on the farm, he rested, and he rested, and he rested. And he had the wonderful food out of the tomatoes out of their garden, the cucumbers out of their garden, and he just let it heal. And he knew when it was healed because there was no more pain. Got that? Didn't happen overnight. Anyway, when I met him, it was 10 years later. He hadn't had the operation. I was interviewed by Doc Mallock. Doc Mallock is a British orthopaedic surgeon. Because he refused to have the jab, no operating theatre would let him operate. So he's actually home looking after the kids while his wife works, and he does podcasts. And he said to me, do you know, near the end of my work, in those last few years, he said, I got to the point where I was only operating on 5% of my patients. He said, I'd get them to go to physiotherapists, I'd get them to drink more water, I'd get them to start exercising, I'd get them to start eating nourishing food, I'd get them to go to bed a bit earlier at night. Oh, it cheered my heart to hear that. That the orthopaedic surgeon was only operating on 5% of his patients. And he said to me, one day this lady came in and I'm telling her what to do, and she said, oh, can't you just operate? Do you know, it's our God-given right, it's our choice. I've had people that have told me they've had the operation, it's the best thing they ever did. And then I've spoken to another 3, said it's the worst thing I've ever did. Was told I'd have no pain, I've got more pain. But you see what I'm saying? If you can do it without an operation. And so when the prince, remember what Psalm 146 verse 3 says, put not your trust in princes. So when the prince says, you need an operation, what do you say? Thank you so much for your advice. I'm going to seriously consider this. And you go home and you open Sustain Me, how to build better bones, how to build better muscles, how to give your body the right conditions for healing. And I think it is our duty to show our prince, whether it be a specialist or a doctor or a naturopath or a nutritionist, it's our duty to prove to them that actually we've got this. We can do it. So when the lady said to me, how can I strengthen my back? And I told her all the exercises she could do, build up her quads, build up her core. You know, that core, that's the centre of your body. Keep it strong. Push-ups every day, whether you're 9 or 90, muscle knows no age. Got that? Did you?
We do now.
Oh, good. But keep it well hydrated. Such simple things. She wrote back to me and she said, I'm very disappointed with your answer. Do you know what she was hoping? Take this tablet. Take it 3 times a day. And you won't have the operation, and your slip disc will be healed. Isn't that what everyone wants? And you know why we want it? Because from young children, what are we taught? When you're sick, go to the doctor, he'll give you a tablet and all will be well. Isn't that what we're taught? Our children weren't taught that. Our children were brought up in a rainforest. Our children were, they didn't have television. Our children, when they got sick, they were given a herb. And if they got a cold, they did what our grandmothers did. What was that? Have lemon and honey? Hardly eat anything for a day. So simple things that have been lost. So when 2020 hit, our kids looked at this and said, this doesn't make any sense. Does that mean if the whole world was homeschooled and the whole world wasn't brought up with technology, and if the whole world was not moulded by the media, does that mean that 2020 wouldn't have been able to happen? I thank God for what just happened in America, because it shows us that the people have power. The power of one. The power of one who stands up and says, nah. No. No, thank you very much. And what Michael has taught me to do is you always smile. You always smile. No, thank you. No, that's not happening here. And he didn't tell you the end result of him barricading himself in the hospital room, did he? Do you know, a nurse came on one night and she went into the room and she said, I feel so sorry for you, what they're doing to you. Is there anything I can do? And Michael said, I haven't eaten for 2 days. Can you get me some food? And she brought, I think she cooked some eggs up. But eventually, because they saw that Michael took a stand, and guess what, this little boy, he was starting to get better. So apparently the matron and the doctors and the nurses came marching up, and he had to sign a piece of paper that he will be responsible or accountable for anything that happens, and Michael was able to leave the hospital with his little 3-year-old boy. Charcoal. Right? Do you know that in hospitals they use charcoal if someone has an overdose now? Do you know that in hospitals they use charcoal to filter blood in dialysis? Did you know that in outer space NASA used charcoal to filter the air and water in outer space? Charcoal has been used for centuries. Charcoal. I hope you've got some in your home. Great for poisoning inside and out. Great for diarrhea and vomiting. Great for a spider bite or a snake bite or a bee sting. But of course, this is not health advice. I'm just giving you history. History lesson. And I'm so thankful for the old lady next door. I'm 25, she's 85, and she told me about the onion on the ear for an earache. Now she's dead now, and I'm the grandmother now. And so what I have done is I've put it all in the book Sustain Me. My aim was that book would be a handbook on natural remedies. And wouldn't it be wonderful if every home could have one? So that if there is a sore eye, if there is a sore finger, if there is a sore knee, you just go to the book. Oh, I'll try ginger poultice. That didn't do much. Okay, well, I'll try potato poultice. You try, and that's what you do. You listen to the body, and the body's going to say, oh, I like that. Or the body will say, I don't like that. And so when the HCCC decided to ban me in July 2019, and I was forbidden to give any health advice in Australia, any health advice to a single person, and I was forbidden to lecture on health. And of course, you know, this is not a health lecture at all. It's just entertainment. My husband came to me and he said, well, Barbara, you can retire your retirement age, or you can go overseas. I said, I'll go overseas because I have never had so much experience. I have never had so much knowledge in my brain, and I feel fantastic. I'm still running up hills every morning and diving in the mountain stream wherever I find one. I'll go overseas. So this is the 4th year now that I've been away for on an average of 9 months in the year. And so it was 2021, I was in Germany at a conference, and a lady came up and she said, Barbara, I'm sorry to say this, but we are so glad you were banned because it has freed you to come to us. And the light bulb went off. This ban has actually freed me. It's freed me to go to many, many places. And in Psalm 146, remember, put not your trust in princes, in verse 9 it says, the ways of the wicked God can turn upside down. And never have Australians had so much access to my information as since the ban. TikTok and Instagram have gone berserk. And it was about 2 years ago that the staff in their office at Misty Mountain said, what's going on? We're selling in 2 weeks what we usually sell in 6 months. And we said, I don't know. And my daughter in America, who sells products in America, she said, what's going on? I'm selling in 2 weeks what I usually sell in 6 months. And we said, I don't know. And then we started to get reports, Barbara, you're all over TikTok. And I said, what's TikTok? You're all over Instagram. And we said, what's Instagram? I didn't even know what it was. So it's just incredible. It's like the starfish. You know, you chop the starfish into 10 pieces, you've now got 10 starfish. That this information has gone berserk, you can say. It's gone worldwide for one reason. The people have spoken.
This was supposed to be a question and answer time, but never mind. I saw her talking, and how could I even stop that? Barbara, I'd be a testimony to this. Wherever we go in the world, it doesn't matter whether we get on a plane, walk through the airport. I've seen police spot her, and groups of police in other countries escort her through the airport like she's a royal person. Then we realise we have been in countries that have royal families, and I've experienced myself whisked away in limousines to the royal palaces and entertained in awe, and they say, you've changed our life. So it's quite a phenomenon to see this happening. And of course here in Australia, it's gained in reverse. But never mind. Barbara, we've still got some time here. There are many things that you can talk about, and I know once we put the little winder on, she can go on all day. But a lot of people have diabetes. I don't want you to give anyone any health advice, but diabetes is a big problem today. What are the causes, and what are the factors that cause people to be diabetic? Because I do know that even people in this audience have mentioned it to me.
Well, we're always scientific, you know. And Newton's third law of motion states that to every action there's an equal and an opposite reaction. In other words, there's always a reason. There's always a reason. Proverbs 26 verse 2 says, the curse causeless shall not come. In other words, no curse, no problem, no diabetes happens without a cause. There is always a cause. So what is the cause? Well, what I have found, and I've found this many, many times, is usually not just one. It's usually not one cause, and in many people there can be different factors coming in. And you know what the research is showing today? You can only apply 5% to genetics. Got that? Sorry, can't blame the genes anymore. And germs don't cause disease, they're the results. So sorry, can't blame the germs. So what's the cause? There was no diabetes on the planet till sugar was refined. There is no mention of diabetes in Hippocrates' writings, and Hippocrates is 400 years BC. It is true that it's the refined sugar, the entrance of refined sugar, that causes this massive blood sugar level rises, then drops, and when it drops, the person reaches for another something that'll get it up again, which is more sugar. And so this constant whiplash, first of all, it causes insulin resistance on the cell wall, because it's insulin that gets the glucose into the cell. So with this insulin resistance, the cell wall says, I'm sick of the sight of you. So it starts to resist insulin. So what happens then is the blood glucose levels are still high, and the brain says to the pancreas, more insulin, more insulin. So more insulin's released, but it can't get into the cell. Can you see what's happening? And so now that excess glucose spills out into the urine. Diabetes mellitus means sweet urine. So yes, sugar is a culprit. Grow that high because of the high yield of grain, the stalk breaks. So it only grows that high. It's got a thick stem and it can produce 6 to 8 sometimes the grain normally. So by the 1970s, 1976, it got a Nobel Prize. So by the end of the 1970s, this grain went worldwide. Farmers loved it. They're getting 6 to 8 times more grain per acre. No wonder they loved it. So it went berserk, so to speak. So by the 1990s, every bread, every pasta, every cereal, every cake, every donut, pretzel, etc., it's all made out of the hybridized wheat. Now, there are people that are eating wheat that don't have diabetes, but it's one of the threads that comes in, especially when people are eating cereal and toast for breakfast, sandwiches for lunch, pasta for tea. And I think it's one of the reasons why the carnivore diet is being so popular at the moment. People have gone from one extreme over to the other, because we actually need lots of veggies too. And they're seeing results only because they've stopped that high carbohydrate diet. Carbohydrates aren't bad. If I stopped the potatoes, my husband would never forgive me. We need some carbs. The problem today is many people are eating all carbs. And it's the fast food. If you want fast food, there it is. Bread's in every shop, cereal quickly there, 2-minute noodles, it's huge. So this is another contributing factor. And when you've got a lady who loves her sugar, loves her chocolate, loves her carbs, she might not have diabetes, but she's almost there, and by her 60s she'll start to show it. But meanwhile, she damaged her pancreatic gene because of the massive blood sugar highs and lows from the high carb, the high sugar diet, and she gives birth to a little baby. And at the age of 6, it's found that he has diabetes. And it's not just the gene that came through from her, but also I've had several mothers say their little one developed diabetes after the childhood vaccination. There's another thread. But then you can have 10 children vaccinated and only one might get diabetes. And that's why we should be our own doctors, because there are so many little threads that come together to make us who we are. And the hormones that the pancreas releases are insulin and glucagon. And those two hormones balance the blood glucose levels nicely. But the body needs water to make them. So if a person's dehydrated, that can influence the production of glucagon and insulin. Exercise. The body needs to move, and it needs to move every day. Strength comes by exercise. There is no other way. Stagnant pools breed disease, and stagnant bodies breed disease. When we exercise every day, we increase blood through the body, we increase blood to the pancreas. So inactivity, late nights, that's a big one. When people don't go to bed until midnight, then the reviving powers that come in to revive and restore our organs while we sleep actually isn't happening. And it's not the one night you might go to bed at midnight, it's at night after night after night. It's not the one day you don't drink enough water, it's day after day after day after day. So you can see a culmination of all these things come together. There's not one cause of diabetes. So if someone comes to us with diabetes, the first thing we do is we put the detective hat on, because there's always a reason. Tell me about your childhood. Were you vaccinated? Did you have medication? What was your diet? And little by little, you can start to thread all the things that came together to cause diabetes. In my book, Sustain Me, I have a chapter on diabetes. It's called Pondering the Power of the Pancreas. And at the end of the chapter, I give a story about a type 1 diabetic who was on 90 units of insulin a day, left our retreat after 2 weeks on 10 units of insulin a day. 3 months later, emailed me, he's off all his medication. Isn't that nice? One of those wonderful stories. My daughter Emma, when she was 5, she said, "Mum, I'm going to grow up in a minute." Now we know that she didn't grow up in a minute. We know that it took her about another 10 years to grow up. And don't we want to be better in a minute? So it's time. It takes time. And once you start implementing the right conditions, little by little, the body will heal, because we live in a human living machinery that's been designed to heal itself. And it will, if you give it the right conditions. And I saw in America one day, they have what they call gas stations, which is, we call petrol stations. There is a big picture of a good-looking young man next to a fancy car. He said, "I only want the best fuel for my car." I would love to have a picture next to it of a young, healthy man saying, "I only want the best fuel for my body." And how often people are fussy on the car and the fuel, but what are they putting into their bodies? And that's, again, something we have choice over. We choose what we do and what we do not do to our bodies. Have I answered it sufficiently, husband?
She did a reasonable job. It's been a wonderful journey that you've had. You know, Barbara is 71 years old. She's not 93 like some of the sites say on the internet. And I also like to say that if you see Barbara selling a miracle product, just shut that down. Barbara only sells a lifestyle. Something that you don't buy, something that you have to do. And that's where the power lies in your action. Is that right, Barbara? And both Barbara and I believe in this, and we've been living this mantra. And of course, in hindsight, Barbara, thinking of all this, if there was an election called in the next couple of days, who would you be voting for?
Oh, you, of course, husband.
The HEART Party?
Oh, the HEART Party, absolutely. So I'd like to tell you a story of my travels. I'm in Kuala Lumpur about 6 months ago, and they thought 50 people might come to the lectures, but 500 booked in. And so they got a big hotel and 600 turned up. And in Kuala Lumpur, it is illegal to evangelise because it's mostly a Muslim country. So I'm lecturing on health, and I would give a Bible verse and I would just look at my audience, and everyone seemed to be happy with that. So a little bit later, I'd do another Bible verse, weaving it in, as I have today. Now, unbeknownst to me, someone put up on Facebook that here's this woman from Australia and she's teaching Bible verses. Now, mind you, it was about 5% of what I was presenting, but, you know, sometimes people do things like that. And so the people that were organising it, they got a message, a call from immigration in Australia saying, immigration in Kuala Lumpur are going to go to your meeting tonight, they're going to arrest and deport Barbara. They said, we're just warning you. Now, they didn't tell me, obviously they didn't want to worry me, so I get up and just lecture as usual. But head of police, 3 policemen, and the immigration did come. They came into the hall and they were shocked. They saw Hindus, Muslims, Sheikhs, Indians, Chinese, Japanese. They had never seen all these different religions together under one roof. And then they saw a member of the royal family in the audience. And then they saw a few celebrities, so they just went, They backed out of the room and they decided not to arrest me or deport me. I didn't find that out till the next day, but at the end of the meeting, the organiser said, Barbara, the immigration and police would like to meet you. And I said, sure. So I shook their hands and said, hi guys. And they said, we are amazed. We have never seen these different religions together under the same roof. Well done. And then they left. And I lectured for the next few nights, and it was a couple of days later that I found out about they were actually coming to arrest me. I never worry, I never fear. Apparently there has been threats on my life because I'm under orders from above, as Michael Griffin says. I work for a higher power. And I know that if my time is up, I'm quite okay with that. And if my time is not up, then I'm safe. So I actually never give it a moment's thought and I never worry about it. In fact, the work I do is thrilling. And I've had people come up to me even today saying, my life, you've changed my life. And I know it's not me, it's the information. And I thank God for this incredible body. I thank God for that information.
It's actually time up, or should we let us say a little bit more?
Another story?
Give us another story, darling.
Okay, another story. Now, I was in Boston. I've only been in Australia about 10 days. But just before I flew out, Michael said, just one more thing. It'll only take 2 days. One of the famous basketball players in Boston, the Boston Celtics, if anyone knows basketball, his name's Al Horford. He contacted Michael and said, my wife, who was Miss Universe in 2016, has just had a 40th birthday. I would like Barbara to come and talk to her. 2006. And so Michael said, well, it'll cost you $15,000. He said, sure thing. All expenses paid, sure thing. And so I spoke to this lady, very beautiful lady, and also lovely lady. And she had her mother there and her, anyway, a couple of other ladies. So I just talked on health. They answered, well, I answered lots of their questions. I spoke in the morning, I spoke in the afternoon for 2 days. And then they said, tonight there's a basketball game and Al is playing. Would you like to come? And I said, sure. And apparently it was pretty big. I don't know basketball. Some of you might have even seen the game. I said, I don't think I've been to a basketball game for 50 years. Anyway, we were honoured guests, and they brought us in, you know, the big hallway where the players come running in. That's where they brought us in. And the Boston Celtics were playing another basketball team that has never lost a game. So it was pretty exciting game. It just moves too the whole time. And when Al came onto the field, he turned around and waved to me. There were thousands of people there, so they were all, So that was quite exciting. So that was the night before I flew out to come home to Australia. So that was quite thrilling, and it also shows that this information is reaching people in every walks of life. So I had to get on I think in Boston, and I think I had to go to Philadelphia and then fly and then to Dallas. And when I got onto the plane in Philadelphia, I was up the front, and I think it's the third seat, and the air hostess came to get our orders for the meal, and she started screaming, I can't believe it! And then she ran away again. And the lady next to me said, what's the matter with her? And I said, oh, she recognises me. And then she came back and she said, oh, I can hardly function. I can't believe you're on the plane. And then I heard her go back again and she said, oh, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. And then she came to get the order again, and we noticed the plane's taken off, and she's not even sitting down, and she got flustered again and sat down. And anyway, this lady watches me. and the other people on the plane said, well, who are you? And then they started to look up. They said, is this you? I said, yeah, that's me. And often in the airport, people come up and they go, are you? And I just, yeah, that's me. But again, it's a beautiful illustration of how far-reaching this information that the Australian Healthcare Commission tried to silence has been the very thing that has caused it to just explode. So we just say, thank you, Father in heaven.
Well, thank you, Barbara, and above all, we're delighted to know that you will be voting for the HEART Party. And is that your recommendation? It's not a health recommendation, it's a political recommendation.
It's like entertainment.
Can you improve on health, environment, accountability, rights and transparency? Can you improve on that? No.
No. Thank you, Barbara. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Barbara.